when it comes to the connection and that real community spirit, community filmmaking, because I see Old Ratchet Blues as a community filmmaking project, which is very different to just me and my crew doing our thing. This was very much community driven in that sense. So it touched me deeply, and I mean it really also stamped that thing for me that said, allowed me to really explore what else is possible with community filmmaking.
It's so great to meet you here on Zoom.
Yes, it really is. I'm at the office, so I just broke away from meetings and I am here and ready.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. So, but you are based in Cape Town.
I was born and raised in Cape Town, but I'm currently in Johannesburg. So I've been in Johannesburg for about 2 years now because I'm doing a lot of work for MultiChoice at the moment. So this is where I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is
No
that,
one really,
yeah?
sorry. Yeah, I was like, no one really leaves Cape Town unless it is work related.
I know what you mean. But I grew up in that area, so I actually love Johannesburg. I also live
Oh,
down, yeah,
wow.
yeah. But is that the hub for film in Johannesburg?
It used to be extremely vibrant. I mean, if anyone was looking to enter the industry or work, they would come to Johannesburg. Currently, a lot of the productions are being shot in Johannesburg, in Cape Town, but
Okay.
Johannesburg is still very much where a lot of the ideas come to life, and a lot of the channels are here. But productions, in terms of being on set, it's Cape Town based at the moment. Yeah.
But you wear many hats because you are a producer, director, and also a writer.
I
Okay.
try. No,
But
I
what
really.
came first?
What came first? Something that was not on that list, acting. I started off in the industry as an actress
Really?
from a really young age. You see, I was very much raised in this industry. My mom was a well-known writer and director, and my dad was a cinematographer for many, many years. So I grew up, whether it was in theater productions or on set, watching my mom and my dad doing their thing. I always knew that this was the industry I wanted to be in.
Really?
From as far back as I can remember, it was never a question of what I wanted to do. It was just when.
Okay.
When am I going to do it? And I always thought that acting would be it. I
Yeah.
started performing from really young, and the older I got, I realized directing is where the passion completely lies. My
Mm.
heart pounds for directing. It is that relationship between the actor and director, and lifting, the vision from the page and bringing it to life. It's everything to me. So that is the, I would say, the main hat, the hat where all the extreme passion lies. But I believe that in this industry, you need to have an holistic approach. You need to dabble in different things while still specializing, but you need to be able to generate work for yourself. And that's not always in the director's seat, unfortunately. Our industry is not, I mean, we've taken a lot of knocks, and that's the industry around the globe. People have
Yeah.
lost jobs. There's not a lot of work happening. So I go where the work lies. If it was a gun to my head, and if I could do anything forever, it would be directing.
Really?
Yes.
But were you, as a child, were you the one in the class that did the little acting or the scenes or the
Oh,
little
I
really?
completely was. I mean, I did drama since primary school all the way into high school, and I absolutely loved it. I loved anything to do with the arts. I just wanted to be around it, wanted to absorb as much as I could. I mean, I remember being a child and putting up plays, and my brothers and cousins would perform in it, and we would charge the neighbors and family members 1 rand to come in, and we would sell like these cheap snacks. And eventually, my mom, she put a camera in our hands, and she said, go and film, and
Oh,
film what
wow.
you see what's through the lens, experience life through your lens. So we would make these little films and put it together. My mom would assist with the editing, and we would just show it to the neighborhood, and they would all come and watch it, and we made a big thing about
Really?
it. So, yeah, it was really exciting. So I grew up in that artistic environment. It was very much stimulated, and my parents encouraged it, and they very much facilitated that way in terms of, okay, there's an interest here, how can we assist, so I mean, and that was with everyone in the neighborhood, everyone in the industry. A lot of people in our industry have sort of come through, I would say, through our house, through my mom and my dad's mentorship. And it was so interesting, because everyone always thought, oh my gosh, you have so many cousins and so many family members. They aren't my family members. They just happen to be students,
Oh,
or like
really?
neighborhood people, or in and out of our house, bouncing off ideas, creating productions. So it was a really colorful childhood, a blessed childhood in that way. Yeah.
But isn't it wonderful that it can happen that way, and that we really underestimate children's experiences? Because I was speaking to a dancer from South Africa the other day, and we were talking about, it's not always the people leaving, or leaving South Africa and going on to do other great things, but it's sometimes the people that stay in the communities and do these little things that almost give children that vision of what is possible, and also an example of what is possible.
100%. I mean, and it's so vital, it's so important. And I think even in more so in today's world than even, a couple of years ago, because of just the state that the world is in. And I think, young souls just need that something to hold on to and grip into, and express themselves through, and that was the arts for me, and it still is. Yeah, my mom instilled quite a lot of her wisdom and knowledge. I mean, she was very much growing up, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to fill these shoes? Because people would often ask, are you going to go in that same direction? Are you going to, follow in your mom's shoes? And at the same time, it is exciting and daunting for a young girl to think, oh my gosh, do I need to fill my mother's shoes right now?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an encouragement of finding your own voice. And I think once I finished high school and I went and I studied film and television at AFTA, it was really about figuring out what space I wanted to be in, how I'm going to achieve it, and doing it on my own steam, by my own merit. I completely to a degree isolated myself from, I would say, the feedback in those years from my mother,
Really?
because, yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to, I need to find my own voice. And when it was needed, she would step in and advise. And there was a lot of projects that I worked with my mom, which was crazy, because we sort of formed this relationship of, when we're on set, we're just in our roles, and the minute we would step off set, we mother and daughter
Oh,
again.
okay.
So, yeah. So it would never be this, like, the
Yeah.
lines would never be blurred when we were busy on production, and we just formed that type of relationship where we could kind of turn it on and off. So it was really, really great. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that you had to find that place for you, for what you want to say through the art, and that you're not just, sort of an extension of what your mum is saying.
Yes, it is. It is important. I mean, because often we can very much fall into our comfort zones, or think that something is just one way. But at the same time, that is not how I was raised. My mom was very much pushing us to explore, look outside, see the world through different lenses, different perspectives, and form your own opinions and your own ideologies and how you want to go about things. So I think the ethos that she instilled in us from how to run a set, which was always about, you know, having fun. Everyone has a purpose, from the person making coffee all the way up to the producers. We're all on the same, you know, there's not that breaking that hierarchy system on set, and you know, just everyone coming together, working as a collaboration to bring the project to life. So on my sets, I'm very proud and very happy to say that that has always been the case. There's so many people who I love working with, and I know who'd love working on productions with me because of that ethos, and it's a family unit on set. You know, everyone is has the opportunity to say something, and if something goes wrong, and it will, and it always does, as production goes, you know, half of filmmaking is problem solving. It's how you deal with it that is important. You know, not everyone needs to know there's a problem. You can just have a small conversation in the background, deal with it, and carry on. And that is how we do it, because I think it's so important that that hierarchy system is broken. And also, I mean, this is so vital. I mean, it's only in the recent years where people of color are in HOD roles on set. So forming that type of connections, and where you can be on a set where it is so versatile, so many people from different backgrounds and cultures, and it's absolutely amazing. And the spirit is just, it's so great, and we're all there for a purpose, and that is the project. So I'm very happy and proud that that type of foundation has been laid, and I can take it forward. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? Because then in South Africa, the stories you tell, it's so colorful, because it's this collaboration between all the people coming together. And I was recently talking to another producer and also a writer, and he said that, you know, the script and the writing is not always finished before the film, because the film itself is it's a evolution, really. And is that true for you as well?
Completely, yes. And or even when the script is done, but it changes and evolves as you're shooting, you know. So you stay true to the characters and the story, but things just change and evolve during production. I mean, even with Old Righteous Blues, a lot of the towards the end, and how the stories evolved and the scenes have been removed and changed entirely, because once you work with the actors and you see that, okay, this is maybe not working, it works on paper, but not when everyone is in the space together. And you have to be flexible enough to work with the actors and play. You know, I love the rehearsal process. I love that process of playing and figuring it out together. The script is the guide. It is not set in stone. It is there to guide story and guide characters, but you essentially put in the work as a director. The actors put in that work, and together you come together, and you tweak the story as you go, and you lock it in as you're shooting, and that type of flexibility and being able to do that, it's part of the job. I think that is also what distinguishes the really great directors from the ones who just follow what is on paper, because you can't in this industry. You can't.
But can you, as a director, see your characters as actors evolve into that character, that you then recognize, okay, but now you are really portraying the person or the character that I saw in my mind?
Oh yeah, I mean it varies. So for me, it's like I can read a script, and I would read it a couple of times, and I would see and envision this character in a certain way, how they would speak, how they would interact, what they may possibly look like. But I always leave that little room for the unexpected, because when someone steps into the audition room, I cannot be so locked into what I think this character needs to be like, that I need to have that openness for someone could just surprise me and be the complete opposite, because it's their interpretation. You know, they picking it up and they interpreting a character in a different way, but it might just be the thing you didn't know you needed. You know, it might just be, oh yes, that is it. And I've had plenty of those moments too. I've also had the opposite, where it's like, We have someone casted in a certain role, but it's someone that we weren't necessarily 100% set on, but because of scheduling or many different things, we have to go with this person. But then through the process, through the rehearsal process, they evolve into that character, and the
We,
work is there, and you can see it, and you just know when that magic unfolds, and you're like, yes,
wow.
this is it, this is it. So
That's
it's never
amazing.
anything set, you know.
Yeah.
It's constantly these balls in the air that is just moving, and you going with it and putting the pieces together. Yeah.
But talk to me about Old Righteous Blues, because you've been also nominated for an award for the is it the Oscar?
Yes, yes. So I mean, Old Righteous Blues as the festival run has been absolutely tremendous. It's been so amazing in the sense that it has very much crossed over from the African audience into the onto the global stage, and it won many international awards across festivals in London and the States. And then it was nominated for the South African entry for foreign film at the Oscars.
I
So that was
see.
really
Oh,
something. I mean, we were
wow.
all yeah,
Amazing.
we were really proud. And it's kind of two sides to that coin, because it's at the same time it's so amazing and you're representing your country. But unfortunately, our country do not have the infrastructure and the financial backing that it takes to really run an Oscar campaign, you know. And there's so much that goes into an Oscar campaign. I mean, some films they like, would have millions, and this is dollars, you know, millions invested into an Oscar campaign, and running it, and inviting people to the cinemas to come and watch it in the States. You have to be there for like a month leading up to the Oscars. We didn't have any of that, and it's unfortunate, because it's like, you know, you're invited to, we compare it to the Olympics. You know, you're representing, you're so proud, but you don't have money for uniform, for training, for the event
Yeah.
itself. So it's like, how do you really show up, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, that is just, it's unfortunate. It's the economy, it's where we're at the moment, but it was really something to just have that recognition and that
Exactly.
consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think sometimes we also miss um a sort of uh, stare ourselves blind to that. But the film, the story, the whole everything around it is so beautiful that it doesn't need that award
Yeah.
to justify what you were doing.
Amen. No, really, it really is. I mean, the process with this film from the get-go, it was kind of a stop-start momentum, because I mean the script itself and to get to the point of shooting took over a span of 20 years. You know, that is a long
Really?
time. Yes, that is a long time. And then when we were finally ready, we got all our investors, everything was there. We were ready to shoot, and then COVID hit, so we couldn't shoot. And
No.
then yes, and then it was a delay again, and we were like, oh my gosh. And then it was sort of stop start, we can't shoot now. I mean, and then you have to think the scale of this production, right? We are shooting in a specific community, we are shooting with many people. It was a huge cast, many different bands, the real bands from these communities, so we could not put these people at risk and coming
Oh,
into
yeah.
to their community and shooting during COVID. So it was very much delayed, and it was delayed for a long time. And then eventually, like, we cannot delay anymore. When things were starting to open up again, people were, you know, at least finding their foot in the COVID world. And we said, we need to go now, we need to shoot. But then the budget was cut in half, in half, because obviously
Um,
during this time, you lose investors, you people pull out. So, and we had no choice. So we needed to shoot the same story, which was planned with a specific budget, do everything you still wanted to do, but with half the money. So it's
wow.
it's very much thinking as you go, like I said, problem solving. The beautiful thing about this film is because I believe when you're shooting in a community, you have to involve that community as much as you can. When you're entering a space, leave it better than the way you found it. So we hired people from the community. We had the community people act in the film. They were working on crew. They were being trained in technical. They provided the catering.
Amazing.
I mean, we had kids, like so many little kids sitting with me under the monitor, and before you know it, they were shouting, "One, two, three, action, cut!"
Oh, isn't that
So
sweet?
it is everything. It is
But
so
again,
beautiful.
how important is that? I mean,
Yes.
it's sad that the budget was cut, but now look at the upliftment or the exposure that you give for a community to see
100%.
how
And
this
that
is
was
made.
yes, and that was always part of the plan, whether all the money was there or not. That is always how I intend to go into a production. Because a lot of my productions are community based, and that's intentional. So it's how can we really incorporate? Because I mean, when we went into this little community, the Boerdorp in Robertson, these people have never ever seen a production. It was something so new. It was, and to see it through their eyes, to see the excitement, to see that whole
Yes,
community come to a sort of standstill and everyone is involved. When we were searching for locations, we would have people running down the streets shouting at us, come have a look at my house. My house is perfect. Come see
really.
my granny.
Oh,
And that is how we found every single one of our locations. It was the involvement of the community and us just going, literally walking down the street, seeing a space, knocking on the door and asking, can we come have a look? This is what we're planning. Would you like to be involved? And it was a beautiful process.
amazing. And you know what? I always love that idea of somebody getting so excited. Seeing
Yes,
people get so excited about things like this. It's amazing. And
it
you
is.
left a mark in that community. They will never forget
Oh,
this.
I hope. I really, really
Yes.
hope. I mean, I'm still in touch with a lot of them. They would pop me a WhatsApp message or an email, or so. I really hope that it goes beyond just the film. It's so important. You can do so much through film, whether it is the representation on screen or how you go about it and working and the types of stories you tell. I mean, we know this. So how do we really implement it? Because it's
Yeah.
easy to say the arts can do so much, it can change lives, it can do, but how are we doing, and what are the steps
Exactly.
we are doing? Yeah.
Yeah, but again, we stare ourselves blind to there,
Yeah.
to films
Yeah.
that are released in America, and yet there's
Yeah.
these independent films that really they go beyond the story. They, like you say, you've touched a community now that's going to either inspire some of these children or leave a mark on the people whose houses you used or who saw what you were
Yes.
doing. So no, I think this is amazing. But tell me
Yeah.
about the 20 years before you started shooting.
So, so Carol Shaw, who is the writer on Old Righteous Blues, she had moved to Robertson, to this area we were shooting in, and she had one evening seen these marching bands walk down the street as they would. It's part of culture. They would just perform in the streets. And it was the first time she had seen it, and she was so blown away. And she was like, "What is this?" And from there, she spoke to the band members, researched. I mean, there's so much. Well, there wasn't at the time. Everything had to be kind of like, going to the people, speaking to them, whereas now you can easily access a lot of information online. She met with, and these bands, these members that were in our film, with their family members at the time, their parents and grandparents, who are now, most of them have passed, but sat and had conversations with them about the struggles, about the people in the community and the importance of these bands, and what do they mean, and the competitions. So a lot of it is and people don't know this, but a lot of the film is based on on reality. It's not a true story to the T, but a lot of it is based on what the community really went through. The bands really split in two. There was this major conflict between the two bands and family members that were split in half. This is the reality of it. So all of that is true. And a lot of the character names also stay true to the real people.
Really?
And so this was all over that span of 20 years, and really crafting the story, really getting it right, and then also trying to find the right investors for it. And you must remember, if we contextualize it, if we're saying 20 years, right? I mean, if we go back into our history, it wasn't easy to make a film in the first place. Secondly, this is a film about a colored community. At that time, it's not easy to find interest or investment, and so it's a combination of so many things over that 20 years. And Carol just over the years polished stories, kept speaking to the people. And before, I mean, when I came on board this project, I read the script for the very first time. And that is such an important moment for me, because I always try and remember what is the thing I felt when I first pick up a script. And with Old Righteous Blues, when I read it for the first time, it completely ripped me apart. It ripped my heart out and then stitched it back together again. And that was the same feeling I wanted to present to the audience. I wanted them to feel that through the story. So, I mean, after that, I made plans, and I drove to the Boerdorp, to this community, and to see it for myself. And I spoke to the people and formed relationships. And then over that next year, it was me working with the community, and planning and having their input. They read the scripts too before we could shoot, because it was important. We are representing them, their families. They read it, they had input. We had this huge meeting in the community where the whole community and the band came to this hall with all the worms, the elders sitting, and everyone could just ask questions and discuss the story and what it is. And yeah, it was with that spirit that we went into it over the 20 years. This is how it
Amazing.
evolved.
And so, and you said that you needed to get investors. Is that something that that's also part of what you do?
As producers, yeah, so that would be my producer hat. So I mean, with every film, you'll have your budget. Obviously, now you need to go and find that money to fill that budget. We do have quite a lot of funding avenues in South Africa. When I say a lot, I mean we have access to it, which a lot of other African countries don't necessarily. Like, we have the NFVF, we used to have DTI, and then our channel distributors. So these are all people that can come on board. But it's not necessarily always they do not match your budget. They only give you according to their caps, their contribution.
Yeah.
So you need to go in and raise the gap funding for it. So that generally takes time to lock in all the funding before you shoot. And I would say almost 98% of the time, as South African filmmakers, you are hardly ever shooting with the budget the film needs and the budget you wish you could have.
Oh,
You're
really?
very rarely shooting with it. So you always need to think on the spot and plan around. And that's the resilience that I think we have just as South Africans. We're just so resilient, and we can make things work with whatever we have.
But I think this is, I think this is part of the magic of South Africa.
Yeah.
Because I also recently spoke to Cuba, the storyteller there in KwaZulu-Natal, and he goes with a shopping bag with a few props in to schools and do little theater productions there. And I
that's
think,
stunning.
yeah, I loved it. I loved his story and how he sees it, and how he sees the community, and how he wants to uplift the community. The power of one, I always believe. So
it is.
And I think to myself, it's only in South Africa can you do that. It's amazing.
It is. I mean, yeah, we always have so much thrown at us, but it's really we can just flip it around and and keep our eye on the goal, and we're going to get to that goal, no matter what we have to do and what we need to piece together, but we're going to do it in the end of the day.
Ano Zakos ay tri astromo mayor.
Je moet dan iemand niks van zeggen, hè. Dat is een groot geheim, hè.
Weet iemand alles hiervan?
Nee, ons moet hom na ons kant toe kry.
Dis dit? Wag, moet dit ek dromo mayor is. Die meisies gaan nie daar plat hardloop om my te kom.
Misschien. Misschien niet.
Oom Zakos wil uit tri.
Dit lyk weer 'n dag het gekom, bro. En hulle eerste optrede, die New Righteous Blues, ook van Robertson af.
Wat maak hulle hier? Dit was hom nie gesê nie. As ons hom weer by 'n kompetisieveld sien, sal sy geheim nie veilig wees by ons nie. Ons gaan met hulle almal afreken.
And it's so great that story has been told, because also in these communities where there's a lot of people live in poverty, a lot of people don't have all the possibilities, but in South Africa the choir community, or the choir it's choir communities and the band communities like that, they play such an important role in these smaller communities.
It is. I mean, it's really a lifeblood for the communities. It brings them together. It gives them something to look forward to, and they are so talented. And a lot of them weren't formally trained, when it comes to the musicality, to this. It is really passed down through, generations, and it's learning by ear and just playing. And, a lot of them don't have that luxury to go and, study music or study a specific thing, that they're just so naturally talented. So it is really important. And like you said, these communities, they are struggling communities even to this day. When I stepped into Robertson, into the Boerdorp, it was as if I stepped back in time. That is how this community is. It's as if you're literally just stepping back into this time capsule and going back in time when you step in this community. They have these old homes, old square TVs. They're really humble living, really just doing the best they can, but hardworking, loving people. And these bands is really where they express themselves, where they come together and they celebrate other. It's a community within itself that is so resilient and so humble and so warm and welcoming and dedicated people. So it was really beautiful getting to know a lot of them and getting to know the spirit of this community, because it is a community that is still very much drenched in you can see the remains of the apartheid era. You can see the struggle, and yet there's so much beauty in this community, so much love, so much talent and skill and aspiration. So it was really, for me, one of the highlights in my career was being a part of this project.
But when you wrap up a film like that, is there something that you feel changed in you? Can you see something that you are thinking differently than you did before you started?
That is such a good question. And it's a question that I often ask myself, what is it? Is it something I've learned? Is it something that moved me? And with every project, it's different. Every project, it takes from you and it gives to you in different ways. And with Old Righteous Blues specifically, it really, when it comes to the connection and that real community spirit, community filmmaking, because I see Old Righteous Blues as a community filmmaking project, which is very different to just me and my crew doing our thing. This was very much community driven in that sense. So it touched me deeply. And I mean, it really also stamped that thing for me that allowed me to really explore what else is possible with community filmmaking.
Jou beurt.
Afdeling Lamont.
Kolamont.
Afdeling! Voorwaarts, mars, links, rechts, links.
Jy moet vir jou broer sê, asseblief Alvin.
Word wakker, Hantjie. Jy lewe in 'n droomwêreld, bro. Jy sal nooit titelmajoor word nie en die ooms gaan altyd oor jou sien. Hulle klaar jou toekoms vir jou gewys.
Nou wat van my, Alvin? Jy dink net aan jouself. Jy's lespa.
Almal bang vir die ooms.
Maar Hantjie, nes jy? Appelleer jy nog steeds?
Nee.
Julle mans, julle speel met die mense lewens.
Let's face it, julle, die ander koor is goed.
Hulle gaan nie van my kry nie. En daai sê ek nou vir julle.
Because I feel that has only just touched the, a little bit of it. It's only like barely breached the surface, There's so much more you can do. I mean, I don't think when you do community projects that it is as simple as just packing your bags and moving on, because so much of your heart is there and so much of their appreciation and their eagerness and willingness and wanting to learn, it stays with you. So I can't just, move on to the next. And yes, that is life. You have to move on. You have to move on to the next project. But it's how do we really still stay connected and facilitate other sort of doors that could possibly open, or other training transfers, skills transfers. How can we still facilitate that? Because they can't on their own. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the know-how or the connections of where to go, and they don't have the money and infrastructure to go to a film school or anything. So it needs to be these informal trainings that really happen. So I really try, and I run a lot of film workshops through in communities, with communities, and it's open for anyone who's interested. And so I hope that it grows and more people get involved, and yeah.
Beloof my een dan. Luister altyd na jou hart.
I so love what you're doing, because I think it's so important that art is used in this way, that we don't, that we don't just put it in a concert hall, or you put it somewhere and it's sort of away from the real life, and it's so that it's part of life. And also I've spoken to quite a few young artists in South Africa, painters, from KwaZulu-Natal, and you think, these youngsters, they barely have a pencil and paper, yet they tell stories about their community through their art. Isn't it amazing? And I think these are the artists. This is art for me, is using that skill or that talent to tell stories, to express yourself, and
100%.
this leads to somebody else seeing it, and being inspired. And I love that. I absolutely love that art is able to do that.
Yes. And I mean, look, why does art need to be so unattainable? Why does it need to be this big, expensive thing? Why do you need all these things to tell your story? Just tell your story. If you cannot call yourself a storyteller if you're not telling stories. You cannot call yourself a painter if you're not painting. Whether it is on a small piece of paper, whatever it is, but just do. Because the more you do, you don't know where it's going to lead you. And the more you do, you're learning, you're training your body. It's your whole body is a muscle. You're training your memory, you're training everything. You're polishing your art, you're polishing your craft. So I really believe that. And sometimes it's just the inspiration that is needed. A lot of the times in specifically communities, it's just inspiration that is needed. It's like you say, they see someone else in their community doing it. It's possible for me too, Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. And that's the value. That's the value of art that we sometimes underestimate. And also, like you say, you talk about the Oscar awards, and you think many of those films, it's not that I say it's not art and it's not good, but I do absolutely feel that it's these, for me, especially on my project and my platform, for me, it's these people, that guy, that young boy who started drawing his little pictures in the sand while the others were playing football. And now he's painting. that for me is the story that I love to hear, you know, how somebody could be so resilient and in this community and do something. So
and it's so true. And if we talk about the Oscars specifically, it has become so diluted and so where it's become more about the circus around the actual project. You know, it's about how much money is pumped into the marketing. What is the star that's attached to it? It's about all these things rather than it just being about the film, about the story, about the performances, you know, the emotion. Where does the story come from? So I also think that the film industry in general is kind of moving away from the true essence of art because it's just packaged in all these ribbons and and people in suits and decision makers instead of it just being about that project, you know. So hopefully we'll get back there again soon.
And about real people, and this is
Yes,
what you're doing. So telling
yes.
real stories, real people, like you say, it happened. So but Muneera, what are the wishes for you? What is the dream?
You know, for me, the dream is really, I want to continue directing, and I think it's a privilege to be able to just make films. You know, it's such a privilege to be able to be in a position to make films. I want to continue making films in whatever capacity that is. Right now, I'm currently producing a lot of projects and not in the director's seat. I've also had to turn down quite a few projects because of what I'm currently doing with MultiChoice and the projects that I'm working on there. But the big dream for me is I'm eagerly, I've got my eye on this one project that I'm hoping to lock down very soon. And for me, the dream is directing more and more and just having a big influence in the industry in terms of that community spirit of having, because it's a big part of who I am. I love the educational part. I love working with people. I love training people. I love inspiring or being able to, if in any way, you know. So it's building the sort of network of training and workshops and skills transfers through films, through generating work and opportunity. So yeah, the dream is the hustle must change. You don't want to be able to hustle anymore for film work, but that's an industry thing. It is not necessarily an individual thing. There are plenty of many talented people at the moment without work. So if I could really just push a button, there would be enough funding within our industry to just tell beautiful stories, unique stories, rich in culture, rich in diversity, and people-driven stories. Yeah.
But I think also the work that you're doing in the communities where young people see, and like you say, you have the opportunity with your parents to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
Now you are exposing more young people to see the importance also of the work that you're doing. And my dream is also that children should be pursuing or should have the opportunity to do some form of art in school, you know, that art be taught next to maths and science so that children understand the value of art, get the opportunity to express themselves, and then we will live in a society where people value filmmaking, where people value storytelling, value music, value the arts, you know, because they have been taught that since a young age. And this is what you are doing in the community. And I think this is so important that without you even realizing, I think you will have inspired somebody there, you know?
I hope, even if it's just one person, I mean, the intention is always to just do what you need to do to work with these people and hope that, you know, something comes of it. It's not always the case, but like you say, a lot of the times you don't even know how you can be touching someone or inspiring someone because you know you're in it. But yeah, it really is. And it's so true with just having the arts a part of our schooling curriculum, because right now it is still very unattainable for a lot of schools and a lot of communities, because it's seen as an extramural activity that you have to do, one day or a week or a month, and you need to pay for as an extra fee. But it is so important, because the arts, even in today's world, oh my gosh, it is so vital for just that mentality and how you see yourself and the world and express yourself. So I hope I'm there with you, Petra. I really hope.
Listen, in 20 years, I'll be sitting here all wrinkled face, and I will be talking to a young filmmaker saying, do you know what, 20 years ago, Muneera was at my community and she made a film and she inspired me.
Oh, I hope from your mouth to the ears above.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Muneera. It was so lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much. It was such a privilege and such an honor to also speak to you. I really appreciate you taking out the time to meet with me.
Kan Jacques uitdrie as trommelmajoor.
Jy moet hom iemand niks hiervan sê nie. Dis 'n groot geheim nie.
Weet iemand anders hiervan?
Nee, ons moet hom na ons kant toe kry.
Dis dit? Wag, moet dit ek trommelmajoor is. Die meisies gaan nie daar op plat hardloop om my te kom.
Miskien. Miskien nie.
Oom Jacques wil uitdrie.
Dit lyk weer 'n dag het gaan in, bro. En hulle eerste optrede, die New Righteous Blues, ook van Robertson af.
Wat maak hulle hier? Het ons hom nie gesê nie. As ons hom weer by 'n kompetisieveld sien, sal sy geheim nie veilig wees by ons nie. Ons gaan met hulle almal afreken. Jou beurt.
Afdeling Lamont.
Kolemond.
Afdeling! Voorwaarts, mars! Links, rechts, links!
Jy moet vir jou broer sê, asseblief Alvin.
Word wakker, Hantjie. Jy lewe in 'n droomwêreld, bro. Jy sal nooit titelmajoor word nie en die ooms gaan altyd oor jou sien. Hulle klaar jou toekoms vir jou gewys. Nou wat van my, Alvin? Jy dink net aan jouself. Jy's net pa.
Almal bang vir die ooms.
Maar Hantjie, nes jy? Appeleer jy nog steeds?
Nee.
Julle mans, julle speel met die mense lewens.
Let's face it, julle. Die ander koor is goed.
Hulle gaan nie van my kry nie. En daai sê ek nou vir julle.
Jy sal 'n brief van ons kry met die datum van 'n dissiplinêr.
Ek sal hulle nooit vergeef wat hulle aan jou gedoen het nie. Nooit.
Jy is die een wat alles opvoeder. En jy gaan nie ontslaa raak van ons nie. Nee.
Maar al wat vir jou saak maak, as trommelmajoor in jou koor.
Beloof my een ding. Luister altyd na jou hart.